You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 186. So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm so glad to have you here. So this week's episode is going to be a little bit different because I'm bringing you behind the scenes and asking you to help me develop something really, really important, hopefully to you, definitely to me, in an upcoming episode. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. If you are a regular listener to the podcast, you probably know that I don't do a ton of guests. I have had Jody Day come on earlier this year, and then, I want to say it was back in May of 2022, I had Corinne Crabtree, who was my mentor and the person that exposed me to life coaching when I was struggling with my weight gain after my fertility treatments ended. But there is an episode I have been wanting to do, and I just haven't found the right fit for how to introduce it. But I think after a conversation I had last week with someone, I think I found the perfect combination that is going to be a joint episode with me and a reproductive endocrinologist, because this person not only is a fertility doctor, she also has gone through IVF herself. She coaches doctors who are going through fertility treatments. So she just kind of hits all the boxes for me, and I feel like it's going to be a really great conversation. And I'm going to get into a little bit later about what I need from you to help me create this amazing episode. But before I do, I want to tell you what brought us together. So before I get started, let me kind of tell you where this all came about. So I am a member of the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Their acronym is ASRM. So basically it is the national association, kind of like the American Medical Association for doctors. This is a subspecialty for people who work in reproductive medicine. I am a member of the Mental Health Providers Group. And this is going to be the second year that I am attending their national meeting. They call it their Congress, alongside of thousands of doctors, nurses, scientists, and specialists from all over the world who are focused on reproductive medicine. So joining this group was really important to me because when I was going through fertility treatments, I never really considered that me having a child wouldn't happen. I went into it thinking that if I tried hard enough, if I did enough cycles, if I followed the steps, eventually I would get the baby that I dreamed of. But we all know, spoiler alert, that did not happen. And when it did not happen, I was completely unprepared and, as you know, unsupported. My clinic offered me no resources, and I should clarify that I went to multiple clinics, and I got to the end of my treatment path at both clinics, never getting a follow-up call, never questions about how can we support you. Well, my first clinic I never heard back from at all. My second clinic, I never heard back from them at all either. But my last conversation at least finished with, if you want resources for adoption or a donor egg, think about it, let us know. And when we thought about it and looked into adoption and decided it wasn't the right answer for us, we knew that donor egg was not the right answer for us. But when the adoption thing wasn't the right answer for us, we really had no reason to call back, and they never called back either. So you probably can relate to that. Most of you can. So you know what that's like. Like, you walk out of that last appointment. Ours was virtual over the phone, but you have just a folder of, some resources, some information, but not a single tool for how to rebuild your identity, how to rebuild your life, how to rebuild your future without the children that you dreamed of. So that gap that exists is from what I understand from the many of you that I have either worked with in my coaching program called Thrive After Infertility or have connected with me in various other ways, that is not a very rare thing to hear about, although it seems like it is because the medical community and the fertility clinics don't really provide us with the emotional support we need when treatments end without a child. So that is why it's so important for me to get involved in ASRM. And it's a place where I am hoping to be the voice for women like us, making sure that conversations just don't stop when the treatment ends. So how we're going to work this into today's episode and a future episode that I'm planning for. So I'm going to be interviewing this fertility doctor for an upcoming episode that is going to be a real expose into what it's like to be the patient who doesn't get the baby that she wanted, what it's like to be the doctor, and how do those two things become a place where we can have a useful conversation? Because I just don't want this to be my interview. I want this interview to reflect the questions and the experiences that matter to you as the patient. So what I want to know is, when you left your fertility treatments without a baby, what do you wish that you would have received? Were you offered any support at all? If you were offered support, like, what did you find most helpful? Was it a therapist? Was it a resource? Was it a podcast? Was it a book? I don't know. What was it? What did you find most helpful? If you weren't, I would love to know, what do you think would have made the most difference to you and for you? And then the other thing I would love to know, if I ran into your fertility doctor, what would you want your doctor to know that you needed when your treatment ended without a baby? So I set up a short form during this podcast interview that I'm going to have with this fertility doctor. I am going to present them with these questions, but I will not use your name. I will not give any information about you unless, of course, I have your consent to do so. And at the end of the form, I'm going to give you an option to leave your name and email if you'd like for me to personally follow up with you and send you a little thank you. I would love to do that. But you're going to find the link to the form right here in the show notes of this episode. It's only going to take you a few minutes to fill out, and your input is going to shape this conversation that so many women are yearning to hear. And I'm guessing you might be one of them, because it's so important for us to bring our concerns and finally have the opportunity to have them addressed by a doctor in the fertility space. And your experience absolutely matters. I think it's easy to believe that because you did not get the baby at the end of their treatment, that your story doesn't matter to the fertility field anymore. But I believe it does. And what you went through was absolutely real. And the lack of resources you were given is real. The grief, the confusion, the silence that you experienced, they are all part of this story. And if I can be a bridge between your lived experience and the professionals who are shaping how fertility care is offered in the future, then together we are going to close that gap. So I want to say it was October of 2024. I recorded a podcast episode. I am going to tell you it was episode 146 of the podcast. I invite you to go back and find it. It was October of last year, where I actually ran into my own fertility doctor, who I had not seen since 2017, 2018. We hadn't talked, and I ran into them at this meeting, and I share about what that conversation looked like for me. And then to follow the episode that follows, I talk about, like, what do we need more of? So if you haven't listened to that episode or those episodes, go back and listen to them. I, in those episodes, shared more about what it feels like when treatments end without a baby, and that silence that follows, and that desire to want your physicians and your care team, maybe, it's even your nursing team, like your IVF nurse becomes such an integral part of your journey. But when you listen to those episodes and you hear me talk about my experiences and what it was like to tell my fertility doctor, hey, this is what happened to me. Like, I am a person who went on to live a life without a baby, and I'm really proud of how I've navigated it. And imagine the ability that you had to let your doctor know what happened to you. Like, what would you want them to know about you? What would you want to use to represent yourself in your story, even though it didn't end without a baby? So when you listen to those episodes, maybe it's going to spark a question or a reminder of something that you want me to use to help build this conversation. So please take a few minutes to share your thoughts through that form in the show notes. This is your chance to help shape a conversation that could absolutely change the way doctors and providers think about those of us who left fertility treatments without a baby. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you. Please fill out the form and remember that it is never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.